guys today about let it break. Oh my God, what is she on about? The seed of the word, the seed that feeds us spiritually. Had this really lovely meeting and we were looking at John, but I'm not going to go into John, but what really kind of resonated with me after we had that meeting was about the seed that needs to fall into the ground. And I want to talk to you guys about that today. But the more I was looking at the seed, the more I was like, wow. So the seed needs to break, and that's the reason why it's called Let It Break. Right, so we're going to be looking at Matthew 13, and I'm going to be reading from the NIV version. I've got both of them. I've got my King James as well, but I'm going to read from the NIV version. And this is from verse 3. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell among the path, and the birds came up and ate it. Some on rocky places, where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly, because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered, because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good ground, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has an ear, let him hear. Now the disciples were like saying to him, why are you speaking to us in parables? Now parables are stories with heavenly meaning, earthly stories with heavenly meanings. But he didn't always open up some of these stories to everybody for them to understand. You have to have a spiritual ear. But to the disciples at the time, he brought them aside and told them what it means. And this is from in verse 18. Listen to them what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches it away. What was sown in their hearts, this seed fell along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once received it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When the trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word but worries of this life, and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop, yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. So this story that Christ was given to them, as I said, is a parable which has an earthly meaning but a heavenly understanding. So it's an earthly story with a heavenly understanding. And what happens with the seed? And I thought, you know what, let's just go and get a seed. So I did go and find one. And this is a very, very tiny one. I don't know if you'll be able to see it here. I'll try my very best. But this is a sunflower seed. That small seed, the sunflower is a huge, huge flower. It can grow really tall from this small seed. That a huge sunflower plant can grow. We get oil from sunflowers. We can eat the sunflower seeds as well. There's so many things that the sunflower is able to produce for us. And even within one flower, it has well over 100 seeds. So we can see here from this story, talking about the seed is the word of God. And the word of God, when it sits into our hearts, sometimes it sits in different places. And my thought that I had was, if we hear the word of God and it falls on the thorns, does it mean that God's finished with you? No, it doesn't. If it falls by the wayside, does it mean he's finished with you? No, it doesn't. Now, the story that we hear here today, it felt some of them were on the path, some of them were on shallow ground, some of them were near the thorns, some of them were on good ground. Now, at different times of our life, I believe that God is doing so much work with us. So this is why some of you may be in church, out of church, in church, out of church. Listen, don't even watch that. That is absolutely fine. You know why? Because God is breaking up the fallow ground. The ground that sometimes for you to really bury and grow a seed, it needs to be deep in the ground, full of the soil of the seed. When the seeds were thrown, you've got lots of seed that are just going everywhere. So there is going to be different types of ground. And that's the same thing that happens within our heart. The ground that it's going to be falling on is us. That's where it's going to be. Not in our natural heart that's pumping the blood. In our spiritual mind heart that's moving spiritually. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about physical things now. I'm talking about spiritual words. Now, look at the process of what happens with the seed. The seed is placed under the ground in darkness. It won't start to shoot if it is up above if it's not planted. It needs to be planted. Listen, it needs to be planted before it can start to grow. Now what happens with the seed is it's planted in the soil where there is darkness, okay? You have this moisture, there is warmth, there is protection, and there is nutrients. So let me say to you, sometimes in the darkest seasons of your life, right, God is not abandoning you. Listen, let me tell you something. God is about to just break through with you. There is an incubation happening in your life. The next part that happens is the water enters into the seed, and this helps the seed to absorb water, and it starts to swell. And then from there, it starts to crack. And then we see from it start cracking, there is something called a radicle that starts to grow. And that radicle doesn't grow up, which is the root. It grows down, okay? It grows down. So God is doing stuff in our lives, all right? And sometimes we need to just be patient, because he's doing some great work within us. But the seed must break life to emerge. But without the breaking, nothing grows. Without the breaking, guys, nothing is going to grow. So if we want things to really work for us, we want breakthroughs, I'm sorry, my darling, sometimes things have to break before it grows and it changes, and that redirection starts to happen. Next, the root comes first, as I've said. The root goes down and it anchors the plant. It draws nutrients and it stabilizes what's happening in that plant. That's gonna come up, but you don't even know it's gonna come up because it's doing the work deep down. And when we're looking at this spiritually, before things happen outside, before people get to see you and know who you are publicly, God is doing some invisible work within you to make sure that there is depth. After it's anchored itself, that seed starts to shoot up. It fights pressure, it fights resistance, and it starts to see the surface of the sunlight where God is starting to do the great work within you. So don't you think that nothing is happening. Right, so once it leaves the ground, there is the photosynthesis that happens, and then fruit starts to come. Now that is the process of our spiritual life. So the beautiful truth is this: what looks like limitations is God is working. The outer shell is limiting what's happening on the inside, but it won't start to germinate until it goes into the ground. It will not start to grow until it's on good soil. And it doesn't matter how many times you've heard the word of God and you're like, it hasn't sat in that place yet. Guess what? God is breaking up the ground and making sure that it can take it. Even if you're listening to these every week, this is what God is doing. He's allowing you to at least hear the word, and in that short period of time that I do these short talks in, just to make that difference for you. So you have the limitation, but when God is working, that outer man will come away. That cast us on the outside. First, the work happens deep down. The roots goes down first. It doesn't come up, it goes down first. So what may look like rejection or darkness and pressure, actually God is getting ready to totally bring us to new heights, totally change our way of thinking, totally transform us, renewing of our minds. It's that transformation, that change. That's what God is doing with the seed of his word that he is telling us. His love is more than tongue can tell, and he loves you and he loves me. So just be patient and realize that if you're going through pressure right now, if you're going through a dark time, if you think that, God, what you're doing through this, let me remind you that in that dark time, magic. He is doing some miracles. He is doing some marvelous things in your life. And you may not see it now, but you'll see it later, and you'll know that that dark time that you went through, God, you are bringing me, because you are transforming, you are changing, you are doing the deeper work that nobody on the outside can see, but God knows what's happening on the inside. He is getting ready to reap from you a harvest, and that's what it's all about. The good vine, as I said to you last week about being a part of the vine, we are part of the vine so we can bring forth more fruit. God bless you guys. Have a lovely day.